the very first sustainer program in television that got tested was in the Spanish group. Hispanic donors are very loyal.
You're saying that actually the sort of the initial investment in sustainers was actually on the Hispanic side. Oh, fascinating.
Within the countries that we work, there's about 5 million people that need help. But for that, we need a steady income. And that's when sustainers came in. So they're like, okay, we can count month after month that this money is going to come. Okay, we have enough money to open a new.
Sofia Machado Lemus, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dave, for having me. It's actually a pleasure of mine to be here in this space. So looking forward for a conversation today.
Oh, man, I am so excited to geek out about all things sustainability, sustainable giving with you. You've got such an interesting background. Today, you're the director of multi-channel fundraising at Operation Smile, but you've been working in charity for a minute, right?
Yeah, I actually, if I go way back, my dad worked in the nonprofit space his whole life. So I think from very early on, I got into this area and I tried to run away from it, but it always finds you back. So I did other things early in my career, but about maybe 11 years ago, I came back to it. And my very first job, official job, was with Heifer Project on the program side.
Heifer Project, okay.
Yeah, I work in Guatemala with some of the Kacchi communities down there. And then I can move to the States and start working a little bit more on just the fundraising. I did some events fundraising for Central, the Mennonite community.
Okay.
And then I moved to Virginia Beach to work with Operation Smile, where I have been, a great voice for Hispanic donors, but also for monthly donors.
Yeah.
And I am so excited that we are having this conversation about them because I think they are, a good backbone for the organization.
We are going to get well into the intersection between multicultural fundraising and sustainable giving. Is going to be such a great conversation. But before we go there, I noticed that, one of the things you had mentioned on the internet that I found was that you loved helping animals and helping others. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So again, as I said, we have different passions as we are growing up. And sometimes we feel like we want to do one first and then the other. So I am a former veterinarian. I mean, I still love it.
Oh,
and that's what I work on. I worked 7 years on that. I went to school because I wanted to work with cows first. And therefore, that's what I did some work, with Heifer Project on the programmatic side first.
Wow.
And then as I moved to the States, the weather actually let me not like the cows as much because they live outside. And, the mountains in Virginia get pretty cold. And I am a tropical bear, as I tell people, so I didn't do very well there. But I work with small animal hospital, like just general practice and emergency.
Yeah.
But, it's I love helping animals, but the impact that you can have on communities when you work on the nonprofit, it's something that you cannot get on the veterinary field. And as you mature as a person, then sometimes you are trying to find that meaning in your life of the things that you do every day. And that's one of the main reasons why I got pulled back into the, area.
Yeah. Well, in Operation Smile, for folks that don't know it, I mean, I've been a huge fan for years. I've definitely, as a fundraiser, marketer, person who cares about generosity, really appreciated some of the work that I've seen the organization do. But just for folks who are curious, I mean, just a brief thumbnail of Operation Smile and what you all do.
We do a lot in a lot of different places. So, Operation Smile is an organization that has been, working for over 45 years. We currently work on 37 different countries. 12 of those countries are in Latin America, which is one of the reasons why I love working with Operation Smile. Honduras, which is my home country, is one of them. That they work, Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Brazil. And which is funny because just this week we start Hispanic Heritage Month. So, we
as we record this,
we are doing some campaigns into that. But Operation Smile helps children that are born with cleft conditions, so cleft lip and cleft palate. And it's a very comprehensive way that we help these children, because a lot of people thinks it's just a cosmetic problem, but cleft lip and cleft palate goes beyond the cosmetic problems. It actually has a lot of health challenges for children that are born with this condition, and malnutrition. It's one of the main reasons a lot of these children, die within the first months of life. So Operation Smile focused their work into 7 different pillars. And one is psychosocial, nutrition, dental care, the surgery itself, pediatrics. We work with the moms as well, to get involved into things. So we have also some training of local health workers. And we do all of this because that's the only way we really support these patients to have a normal life in their communities.
Okay. Tell me a little bit about what recurring giving looks like at Operation Smile.
It's in a strong portion of what we do. So Operation Smile is a little different outside that some other U.S. nonprofits that we also have international nonprofits international chapters, I'm going to call them, that also fundraise for us. But if I focus on Operation Smile US, about 30% of our revenue comes from our sustainer program. And that it's, that monthly recurring $20 gifts. And they have really hold us strong during, hard times like COVID and other transition times where the economy hasn't been there. And interestingly enough, of that portion, of that 37% portion, almost 42% are Spanish-speaking donors.
Wow.
So we
42% of your recurring donors are Spanish-speaking.
Yes. And they are self-identified Spanish-speaking. So when we acquire them, we request, for them to let us know what's their preference in language. And we currently have a very similar path for donors in English and Spanish. So they just choose which language they would like to get, cultivate it on.
Well, we're going to dig into that in a little bit more. But when you just step back and you think about sustainable giving as a concept, what does that phrase mean to you personally?
It means commitment, from donors. It means caring. It means a strategy. I think it's very strategic to have a team, recurring program. It also means efficiency, I think, into a lot of different things, that you do as an organization.
Well, when I think about organizations like Operation Smile, right? The type of work that you do, highly visible. You go so much deeper, by the way, than the smile part, which is amazing.
Yeah.
But also there's a real beauty in the simplicity of the difference that somebody can make. If you would have come up to me 10 years ago, Sofia, and said, oh, there's an organization called Operation Smile, and they're going to want to raise a bunch of money with recurring giving, I'd say, oh, well, that's a nice idea. But the reality is, they're more of a a relief type program. It's going to be really conducive to single gifts, especially because, you've had, if I'm not mistaken, it was like at one point, it was like $240, can provide a surgery. And so typically a charity like yours would be really good at one-time gifts and not so good or not so conducive to recurring giving. Now, I just wrote a book on the topic, right? The last 10 years have really changed the game on generosity. But I am fascinated to learn from your perspective, like what was it like to pivot to sustainer first? Like just take me into the organization as that shift has been taking place.
I would say that was hard.
Yeah, hard.
Hard, very, very hard. So this is what's happening. You said it right. We had one of the best offers for single giving out there, especially for DRTV. And so we were, having this offer, on television. So we had like the $240 can provide, help us provide a surgery for a child in need. And so it was so simple, and easy for people to grasp that idea. Okay, I can make the difference on the child. I'll give $240. But then our attrition on those donors was horrible. Like we couldn't recapture these donors.
Yeah,
However,
they felt like they
yeah,
kind
they
of did
have
their
done their
job. They
duty.
paid for that
Yeah.
surgery. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm
And
paying
so,
attention.
yeah, exactly. So the organization had this problem, so
Okay.
we were, well, with our money, like we weren't in need of any money, but we had a problem that we had every January, you know, we saw a dip on donors, like we couldn't
Mm,
capture these donors back. And so
yeah.
that's where the sustainer offer, it starts to make a little bit of a good sound for leadership, but it was not an easy buy because most of our donors, in most of the mass market program at Operation Small started with the television program. So the 240 was bringing very nice ROI because, all that money was coming at front. So it was easy to justify the expenses on
Yeah.
television. But when we try to test the sustainer program, then, the $20 a month, we had to wait for that
Yeah.
$20 a month.
2 years to get to
Yeah,
240,
2 years.
right? If you're doing the math.
Yes, exactly. And so it started actually, I think that the Hispanic program has a lot to do with this because when it got tested, the very first sustainer program in television that got tested was in the Spanish group. And it's because of this conception that it will be easier, for this audience to donate with the $20 and $20 a month. And it was in a smaller group and it was not necessarily affecting the numbers that we had originally,
Okay.
on the 240 for English. And so when we tested and like these donors stick to it, like Hispanic donors are very loyal, then that program gets started and they're like, oh my gosh, it's really an opportunity for us to create a more sustainable giving, and not necessarily something that we have to continue offering, getting new donors all the time. And so we
So
break it out.
I want to make sure I'm tracking just real quickly. So you're
Yeah.
saying that actually the kind of the I don't know if you would call it the pilot, but the sort of the initial investment in sustainers was actually on the Hispanic
Yeah.
side.
Yes.
Oh, fascinating. Continue.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, it's interesting because at that time, the agency that we had, I think they really believe in Hispanic giving. I wasn't part of that. When I came in, the Hispanic group was already, set. I would say like we
Okay.
had a group, but we didn't know what to do with them. But we already have a group of these donors that had been given monthly. But that's where it started. So then after that, then English sustainer giving, television program was created. And that's what started everything. So then as leadership starts seeing the revenue that was
Mm-hmm.
steady year over year, then a little bit of, like the conversations were changed. They're like, okay,
Yeah.
how can we grow this group? Because for us, we always are trying to reach different countries. So within the countries, just to give you a little bit of an idea of the need that we have within the countries that we work, there's about 5 million people that needs help.
Okay.
And currently our goal for the next 10 years is to help 1 million. So there
Whoa.
is a lot of need. Like there is no way we can really, as it is right now, even in the way that we want to grow, we need more. But for that, we need a steady income. And that's when sustainers came in. So they're like, okay,
Okay.
we can count month after month that this money is going to come. Okay, we have enough money to open a new
That's
country.
amazing. Well, and I mean, there's so many things here that I think our listeners can resonate with. Number one, that the need is vastly larger than the current resourcing. If you would have asked me just without saying, like, okay, cleft lip, cleft palate, child, welfare, I would have been like, well, how many really? I mean, you probably have covered that territory, so to speak. But so to know that, you've 5 million that need help, but only really, even as you've grown, and done incredible work, that you're at 1 million today. That's candidly, it can be discouraging to some, but I think it's really inspiring because
Yeah.
our listeners can totally relate to that vast need. But then you've also got the element of the January 1st problem, right? That was you and I talked about that. We spoke at an event recently in DC, and I shared that, the first line of my book is January 1st is the worst day of the year. And it was a quote from a
Yeah.
nonprofit leader who was just lamenting the fact that they had to start over again. And so you've got a couple things going, and just want to make sure I'm tracking.
Uh-huh.
So you've got this, really strong, what we would call single gift offer, right? A cleft flip, cleft palate surgery with actually very high average gift, because you can literally help change a child's life for $240. Um, at the same time, you had the organization had this inkling towards recurring giving, was investing in Hispanic fundraising, built that program, and if I understand correctly, as that started to take off, that's when they started working on the English language, like the
Hmm.
DRTV, direct response television spot, for essentially the English language version of the program. I love
Yeah,
that it
like the
started on
sustainer
Hispanic.
version. So we had the
Okay,
one time. So English used
right,
to be
because
just
you
one time to 40. Yeah.
so they worked on a English language version of the sustainer program, which I just love the fact that it started on the Hispanic side. So tell me a little bit more, because the other thing I think leaders can really relate to in this conversation is that tyranny of the urgent, that tyranny of but the budget says we're going to have X number of new donors. And what if we get Y number of new donors and it's a lower number, even if the revenue actually ends up being higher in year and future? How did you navigate that? Just talk about that.
Well, I think, it definitely took years. It wasn't like a one and done
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Um, when I joined Operation Smile, we were not yet a sustainer first. So we had our DRTV spots and we had a specific KPIs of how many sustainers we wanted to bring in. But our website or direct mail pieces, everything else, was very driven to the 240.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 2 years in, as COVID started and we were having, some issues getting the 240, it's when the organization sees, the value of the sustainers and they are like, we are going to take a leap of faith, you know?
Okay.
And I would say that the VP at digital at that time was a very strong voice with that. And he um, took the chance, on really doing it. I'm going to call it a test. So he's like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, we are going to change anything in digital, everything to the sustainer offer for English and Spanish. And I think that and we created a plan and presented the plan. But as I said, we had a very strong foundation. Like that organization economically has been very good. So I think that really helps because sometimes
Mm-hmm.
if you are like, I'm gonna call it addict to your,
Yeah.
cash that it's coming in, it's hard to make the switch. So we did do that switch for 3 months, that first
Oh,
year.
okay.
And it is supposed to be for 3 months. It's supposed to be for at least the first 6 months. But then we were stopped and we were told like, no, you cannot continue with this. We are losing so much, 240 gifts, like
Right.
like the leadership was looking at the numbers and they were like, okay, no, it's too much. Then, so we had to drop, but then we continue educating because I think that's the other portion, like sometimes,
Mm.
you are told no on a program because there is not a full understanding on what an investment gonna do. And so then the organization had a shift on planning. So we used to plan year over year, and then we
Mm-hmm.
start planning every 3 years or every 5 years. First every 3 years and then every 5 years. And so when the budget was looking to that, then we saw the value of the
Oh,
sustainers.
that's great. Okay. So yeah, so you were one, I just want to kind of make sure I'm following. This um, head of digital really had this vision for, hey, let's go sustainer first, at least in digital.
Mhm.
And as you said, by the way, there was even months and years of other things that were happening, that were developing. the anticipated 6 months of like, we're going all in, get 3 months in, you're told, okay, we're
Yeah.
losing too many,
Let's go back.
single gifts,
Yeah.
right? Understandable. And then as the organization pivoted to this longer term cycle planning, which I think is a key insight for our
Mhm.
listeners, as the organization pivoted to 3 and 5 years, well, that just naturally tees you up to be able to say, well, then let's look at the 3 to 5 year value, right?
Yes.
Oh, it's so
Yeah,
good.
and that was the key. And so by that time, we got a new head of like just I'm gonna call them offline channels. We have different things. And I would say they work together pretty good to convince or poor, on like, okay, showing the numbers. And so I remember we got this number of how much did the digital donor value was,
Okay.
if they were a sustainer versus a one time. And like by year 3, it was like double, of like the
Yeah.
240. Like we were seeing, because like even average gift, like we had the offer of $20, but digitally we were seeing donors at $30 a month. Even though it wasn't our offer, but that's what people was doing.
So you were messaging people around $20, but even your average was higher than that. That's great.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think, when this long-term planning happens, then it's easier. So then as everybody got into this and the goal of the organization was beyond the first year, then the conversations pivot, because they are like, okay, it's not about how much money or how much revenue is going to come in the first year. It's where do we want to be at year 3?
Yeah.
So, and we had hard conversations. I mean, we had times where we sat in tables where we are losing donors, like we are losing money, like we are behind this month. However, we have this new amount of sustainers that should take us, by this month here. And like we were, like measuring some retention as well. And then I would say that first year was the most painful one. But then once we went through that first year and we had some learnings, then the organization is like, we are not going back.
There's so many things I love about this. Number one, that you're not just blindly saying, hey, we need to be sustainer first no matter what. It's just, this isn't an ideological stance. Here you're being practical, and the organization's being practical, right? About like, hey, what is our best? We know what we need to do this year, we know what we want to do next year and the year after. And so we're not just assuming that recurring giving is the answer no matter what. I mean, even me, I've written a book on the topic. I'd still say like, okay, we do have these single gifts, and what do we do, right? You move forward. So I love the fact that there was, and I think the tension is important to point out, but also just understanding the kind of snowball effect that happens when you do have multiple years of investment in recurring giving. And one of the things I encourage, Sophia, people that I talk to when I speak at events or I work with my clients, is compare yourself to yourself. First of all, like, it's
Yes.
really easy to compare yourself to that charity over there that has been, and then it turns out they've been doing it for 10 years and you're in year 1 and now you're comparing yourself to that. Like, that's not a great idea, right?
That's not fair on you. And you know what? And then I think there has to be sometimes, if you have to give yourself some grace to say, I miss, you know? So that year, we are like, oh, so this is second year, we are all sustainer. We are going forward. And so comes December and we have everything sustainer.
Oh yeah.
Oh, bad decision. That December, we lost a lot of money.
Oh
And we realized like we were December 20th and we were like, I don't know, 10% of what we needed to raise. And
wow.
I remember we had a meeting and they're like, what's going on? And so then we are like, we said we were sustainer first. Everything is in sustainer, and we were that December, I don't think we have ever gotten more sustainers than that first,
Really?
couple of weeks. Within the
Mm-hmm.
day and amount of sustainers per day. But even with that, it was just going to be too strong of a hit.
Yeah.
So I think it was either December 20th or December 17th, something around that time, we are switching all our donation pages to one-time default for now. We
Right.
revamped some created and they're like, we'll get back in January. We'll get back in January. And we learned that lesson, I would say the hard way. That year, we did not reach our December goal.
Mm-hmm.
And we learned. So now we are sustaining our first except so December. So in December, all our donation pages go default to one time. And it's not that we don't get sustainers, but we do ask for those one-time gifts.
Yeah. No, that's such a good lesson. But I do think most organizations err on the other end of the spectrum, right? They're sustainer light. They're like for 2 weeks in February, we'll talk about our, and it's like, you did the complete inverse, which is like anybody who thinks about giving to Operation Smile is going to understand that the core way that they can help, the best way that they can make an impact on these kids' lives is by becoming a recurring donor. If you've been listening this far, then it might be safe to say that you're looking to grow sustainable giving at your organization. You might have been following trends and noticed the growth of recurring and giving across the sector. You might also be frustrated with the lack of growth in your own program, or you might be growing and have a sense that there's more opportunity to be tapped into. In any case, you are in the right place. The Sustainable Giving Growth Blueprint is a guide designed to help organizations cultivate a thriving recurring giving program. This blueprint outlines 7 essential steps that will empower you to navigate the journey towards sustainable growth. Get started by downloading your blueprint today at sustainablegiving.org. You'll gain valuable insights, practical strategies, and actionable recommendations to unlock the full potential of your recurring giving program. Again, you can get that blueprint at sustainablegiving.org. We can't underestimate how important that sort of establishing that as like the core. I'm at a loss for words, but it's like when you see something so often from an organization over a period of time, you just recognize that is the way, that must be the best way to make an impact.
Yeah, and I think you are saying something that it's very right. So then we are like, okay, now we are sustainer first. So that means there is going to be a way for anybody to become a sustainer every single time they hear from us. So in the PS of our acknowledgments, do you want to become a sustainer? In every single reply device from our direct mails, there is an option for you to become a sustainer. After every call that we have, in the scripts for our donor relations team, have you considered becoming a sustainer? So adding it everywhere and then working with the people that you have in your file, at least we started twice a year. Now we have every quarter. There is a sustainer invite.
Yeah.
So to our single donors, then we ask them, to do that.
Yeah, that's so good. By the way, I didn't ask earlier, does your sustainer program, do you call them something? Do you have a name?
So yeah, it's interesting because we did create the name Small Partners, but because our main offer is to help us reach and give a new smile to a child. A lot of people sometimes call themselves small partners, even though they're not sustainers. So we like that's an internal
right.
thing.
They've given a single gift and they're like, "Well, I'm a smile partner." And you're like, "Well,
I'm a small
technically,
technically you are not, but yes." So I hope not many of our donors see this because I don't want to discourage, or hurt any feelings.
Yep.
But that it's called Small Partners. We're trying to do a better job at, trying to people to understand. And that, that's one thing we did before we started to become sustainer first, we did a survey to our current sustainers.
Okay. Tell me about this.
And we asked them, we did it for English and Spanish ones. And we asked them, what would you like to hear from us? Like, why do you think your, commitment to this monthly gift is valuable? What are the things that you are getting from us that you don't care for it, And we got a lot of nice insights on this, like we a lot of people said, like set it and forget it. We actually start mailing our donors more. Like our sustainer donors receive 5 mailings a year with an ask for a single gift.
Okay.
And they receive 2 gratitude mailings as part of that cultivation. Um,
I want to
and I,
I want to accentuate that real quick though, because I just wrote a wave report about the whole worst advice I've ever heard, including set it and forget it is not good advice today. So you heard from donors, that we want to hear from you. We want to understand, I'm assuming, how our gift has made a difference.
Yep.
So you are communicating to them regularly. You are asking them additional gifts, which is wonderful. That's super critical. I found that the average donor, the average charity sees about 25% lift in terms of single gifts from their recurring donors. I don't know what you've seen.
that's pretty similar. Yeah.
It's about right. And then you are doing gratitude and report backs. That's great.
Yeah. And we have, this newsletter that it's called the Smile Report. And, again, remember that we have this sustainer program, but we didn't have an Spanish email channel at that time. And we will send them the Smile Report in English in email because that's all we had, And so that
Okay.
was one of the things of the new programs that was born after that survey was our Spanish email program. And it helped a lot with retention of donors. So that's another thing that I want to maybe emphasize is that once you have your sustainers, there is going to be a push from leadership, probably, or at least we have lived this, where they want the program to become more efficient. So what can you cut without, affecting revenue?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say make sure you still continue your touch points with your donors, because if you remove some of these extra gifts or extra gratitude things, then you'll see a drop on retention.
So easy you're trimming the budget and they're like, well, especially at your scale, it could be we're spending 100,000 or 500,000 on this thing, but
Yeah.
there's no measurable return. Why are we doing that? Why are we sending that nice whatever note to the card
Yeah.
to the donors or whatever? So you're absolutely right.
Yeah. And, it's interesting because in this, television programs, so they're like, oh, we're spending too much money on television. And they're like, okay, so where are we spending it? So they're like, okay, well, we have these for Spanish TV, we have these for English. And they're like, oh, let's put some Spanish. We have a lot of Spanish donors. I think we'll do good, Bad decision. Bad decision. We trimmed the budget, like I would say maybe like 30% of the budget, and like the amount of people that we weren't able to recuperate that amount of
Yeah.
attrition. Like we could not keep up with the attrition of our file, and it's funny because sometimes, like if you're a one voice, and I think a lot of people that work on sustainer programs is a one person, like trying to keep this program there. Even though everybody works on this audience, I remember in our case, I'm like, this is a bad idea, bad idea, I'm sorry. This is a bad idea, and they're like, no, I think we'll be good. The next year, we put that money back into the budget. We are like, we're not touching the
Oh
television
my
budget
goodness.
anymore.
Well, and just to, if anybody's been in fundraising for a while, I remember learning 20 years ago that like what happens when you cut acquisition and then, and this is single gift acquisition, right? And
Yeah.
then it's usually about a 2-year lag and then you feel it. Well, the reality is, I would imagine, and I'm curious as to your thoughts, when you cut acquisition of sustainers, it, that lag lasts longer because by definition, those people would have been around way longer than their single gift counterparts. And so the kind of churn is less quick in a way, right?
Yeah.
And so you would feel the effects of cutting that longer.
Yeah. This happened 3 years ago. Just 4 months ago, we broke even.
Wow. Wow.
So it took us a while to get back to that churn. Like we
Yeah.
were growing, but we could not keep up with the amount of people that was, like
Yeah.
coming off of our file.
Okay, I want to talk. We've talked about it, but I want to really lean in on what you've learned a lot about engaging Hispanic donors in particular. So how has that shaped your approach? What do you find like Hispanic donors? I mean, the natural question I think a fundraiser might ask is, well, are Hispanic donors just as likely to give on a recurring basis, less likely, more? Like, what have you learned in your years of helping build that program?
I say they are more likely to become a sustainer.
Hmm. Why?
They um they like so when you look at the Hispanic donor, they want to be part of something, and that something feels like a shared responsibility. So when
Hmm.
they join as a sustainer, before they get out of a program, like before they, like if they have made that decision, before they actually move away from that decision, they would probably cut several other things within their budget before that sustainer get. So we have seen that even on lower income households, we have better retention on sustainers from Hispanics. They have a higher um, propensity to give and to stay in there and to even return back if something happens. It has to be something very strong for them to really cut back. Like sometimes they call and reduce their gift instead of actually quitting their gift, because I
Hmm.
think this goes back to a cultural thing where it's never just my problem, it's always our problem, and this may sound a little cliche because people talks about Hispanics and community. And it's just not using the word community. It's like what a community means. Like, am I taking my load? Am I
Hmm.
doing this? And so I think for Hispanics is that it's like give them a platform where they feel like they are creating an impact and they are part of, and then they will stay there.
Wow. It's not my problem. It's our problem.
Yeah.
Man.
It's our problem. And I hear it like all the time, like we do call calibrations from our donors, and like they say, I really want to help. Like we work a lot with children, and like Hispanics really gravitate to children. And, as I said, we work in 12 Latin American countries. So that also has a lot to do with it. But like when they call us,
Hmm.
they are like, I really, want to continue supporting you. I want to do an extra gift because I know you guys are doing good, and this is my part. This is
Wow.
my little, you know, um, dot of sand. I don't know how to
Yeah.
say it. But it's just that, and then once you do that, gratitude means everything. So a lot of the times, for Hispanics, they don't want to be the hero helping. They just want to, as I said, feel that they are carrying their load. And so like just a little bit of gratitude goes very, very long ways.
This is so good. Sophia, I don't think you and I have had a chance to talk about this, but one of the programs I got to work on early in my career in fundraising was for a charity in Los Angeles. And again, I came into this program, so I didn't help invent it, but I did help build it. And it was our Hispanic fundraising program. And we had built a file of it was a it was almost half as big as the US file, which had 100 years to build, by the way. And those Hispanic donors were higher retention. They were higher, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were even higher average gift. They were some of the most loyal donors that we had to that charity, and I think it's a missed opportunity for a lot of charities in the U.S.
Yeah, and I think I always tell people that also the U.S. composition is changing, and either we like it or not. The demographics tell us a lot, and like
Hmm.
a good chunk of the population in the U.S. now has it's either Hispanic or has some Hispanic roots. And so I think when you start catering to them with respect and give them the opportunity to create an impact, um, they really engage with you because they want to do it.
Yeah.
They will find a place to do it, so it's going to be either your charity or another charity. A lot of Hispanics, that's why they engage so strong with, like the religious organizations, because those have been the only charities that have given them the opportunity to, as I say, share the load, like be part of this group, but they do want to create that impact, leave a legacy. If you probably will see some of our ads right now, as Hispanic Heritage Month is one of our campaigns, and it just started this week. And one of the messages that we hone in a lot is the legacy that we are going to give, because for Hispanics, it's never just about me. It's about who I'm coming from. So who are my generations that set up my stage, and what am I leaving back to my upcoming generations,
Wow.
So if your message aligns with that, I think Sustainer Giving aligns with that. It's not like, oh, done and I'm out of here. It's like, what am I building for the years to come? What can I
So cool.
sustain, with the things that I do? I think that's why the Sustainer programs work so good for Hispanics, because we understand that it's not about doing a lot today. It's the little things that add up.
Wow. That is so good. One of the things that I think I want to accentuate here is that culturally, there are differences in how you even spoke about that. I think many of those things would be resonant in an Anglo or in a different culture. But when you really accentuate, we found the charity that I was working for, we found that we had to tell very specific stories. We would use, very specific kind of sort of cultural elements of community and being a part of that broader whole. So this is so good. So I hope one of the other things our listeners take away with is not just like to copy paste, but to really understand your audience and what motivates them to give on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, and I would say for anybody, that it has a sustainer program, they want to grow it, I think they should look into the Hispanic audience. Right now, there's a lot of, agencies that have worked with it, like the Hispanic audience. But do those surveys, like if you don't have an internal person, like let your donors tell you, what are some of those things that they want to hear. Hispanics are also mobile first, that's another thing. And so like right now with the boom of SMS, that is becoming like strong channel,
Okay.
for sustainers. And it's an easy channel that it's less expensive to cultivate. You don't need, like long paragraphs of things. But it is a way to engage with these donors as well.
Yeah. Let's actually go there, because that was literally the next one on my list is, what are you seeing in terms of mobile messaging, SMS? And then, yeah, let's do both the on the Hispanic side as well as the broader program.
Yeah, so Operation Smile is actually, we did our very first test with an amazing, I think them agency. Their name is Carix. They
Yeah.
gravitate for Hispanics, and E10 has been wonderful to us. And we did our very first test with them for SMS, and that was 2 years ago. So for Operation Smile, the SMS program started as a test 2 years ago for War Small Day, actually. So literally 2 years ago.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, because War Small Day will be first Friday of October. So it will be October 1st,
Okay.
3rd, sorry, this year. And we started just with our internal donors, like our current donors, active donors. And the response that we got from our donors, the ROIs that we are seeing on that program, amazing. We cannot compare that to any other program. And the Hispanic donors, as it right now, we receive more revenue from our SMS program than our email program. So
Come again? You
yeah,
receive more revenue, recurring revenue, new recurring revenue.
no, this is like just general revenue,
Okay,
but
giving.
Also, so we have quarterly recurring invites in email. And now we have added SMS. And kid you not, like we had wonderful results. I actually was reviewing these results. I'll share some with
Wow.
like real results that we saw on our campaign. And it's I think it's a channel that you need to look into because it's so immediate. So we did a campaign where we sent it to our single gift donors, and we asked them in a text, do you want to become a sustainer? Within one campaign, in one text, we got 84 new sustainers. So we sent a
Oh my
text,
goodness.
and within the next half an hour, people is like signing up. Yes, I want to become a sustainer.
That's incredible.
There, there is no way
Okay,
you can do that.
so many questions, but and by the way, yes, totally a huge fan, good friend. Yvonne Leon is who you're talking about, and Karuk's group, which for those who can't phonetically spell like I can, can't. It's KERUX group. And so you're doing this test, and obviously now you're doing a lot more of it. But how do you even have an email, an SMS list? I think that's the first question a lot of nonprofits would say is like, did you append? Did you like offer we'll send you a tip of the day text? Like how do you even build a list in the first place?
So we use Work Small Day for it. So we are Operation Smile. We create new smiles, to children around the world. And Work Small Day is just a day. So I would say
Okay.
there is a lot of holidays in the calendar. I mean, I just recently learned there is a cookie day in December. Now I have it marked, in my calendar too. So
There's a day
find
for
one that
everything.
exactly find one that goes along with your organization and send a text to your current donor. So you probably will have phones, but you can work with agencies that they can literally
Okay.
tell you are these cell phones or they can append new phones. I will start with your current file, and then you will have to do some updates. So there is some
Opt-ins,
regulations
yeah.
into that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we did that. We did have a opt-in, but it was part of that first campaign. So there was an opt-in, and if people say yes, that same day, people receive that today is Work Small Day. As an organization, this is very important to us. Please join us understanding a little bit more about this. And then we had a link for
Okay.
them to go to our website. And that's how we did it. That's how it all started as an engagement one. It actually, if I'm not remember wrong, I think we had either 2 or 3. I know we had at least 2 text messages as part of this campaign. So it wasn't just one. So it was that welcome, this is Operation Small, whatever. And then later on the day, we sent one that this is a great time and great opportunity for you to join us and give us an extra gift.
That's
Please
so
go
great.
to
Oh,
this
so you
link.
actually World Smile Day, literally in the same World Smile Day, you said, "Hey, would you,
Join
basically
us.
join us in the list?" However, you said that you offered something. What was do you remember the kind of like what
Um,
you?
I um I think I don't remember if we had a match or not at that time. I do remember we sent the first message or compliance message around noon. And
Mm-hmm.
then to the people that actually say yes, we send the very first message and like celebrate with us Work Small Day around like 1:30ish, like an
Okay.
hour later than
Wow.
that. And then like the actual ask went like that afternoon, like at 6. And
Okay.
that was it. Like
Wow.
we did not text them anymore for like, I think until Giving Tuesday.
Yeah.
That was our second campaign that we did.
Yeah. This is great, and I will say the charities that we're working with on recurring giving, I um, hear nothing but bright spots about what's happening in mobile messaging. Sometimes the bright spots are smaller because it's just a smaller list, but it's just punching, as they say, punching well above its weight
Yeah.
as a channel. And so when I was talking to the team, actually they had told me you need to talk to Sofia. So I'm so glad you brought that up because I think that is a channel that really we take take for granted, and
Yeah.
it's something that donors are very responsive to.
Yeah, and most people will read your SMS, and we had some people that actually, because it was the first time, they actually call for call center just to make sure it was
Hey,
us,
is this legitimate? Yeah, am I really
Yeah.
signing up for monthly giving? We've all been burned, but yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was, like I thought it was a nice thing. So or call center was aware of it, and I think, as you said, it's a channel that we're still discovering here at Operation Smile. Like we will just probably within the next month or so do our very first acquisition test into it, so trying to get to cold prospects.
Okay.
So we're still learning, but it is a channel that has a lot of opportunity to grow.
Absolutely. It's a deep rabbit hole, and it's one just like, if you were in phone-based fundraising, or if you were in direct mail or traditional media, like those, for decades there's endless new ideas and new learnings. And so I hope people see that this is just a discipline that's just as important as our planned giving program, or our major gifts program, and that it's worth investing in, not just doing, but in staying with and continuing to test and grow.
Yeah, I agree.
So as we kind of come towards the end of our time, I just, as you think about this, as somebody who's come into an organization, was in the midst of transition, you made that sustainer first transition, you learned some lessons along the way. 30% of revenue is incredible, by the way, for a charity that's not a quote unquote like sponsorship or membership style
Yeah.
charity.
Mhm.
30% is a really solid base. So if you could give one piece of advice to another nonprofit leader who wants to build a stronger sustainer program, what would that be?
Put that ask everywhere.
Yeah.
It's like your piece, like if you're sending direct mail pieces, make it a tick box in your reply device. If you are sending, a
The front of
monthly,
your reply device, right?
yeah,
Not the hidden on the back.
exactly,
Let's
in the
talk
front.
turkey here. Okay, good.
Yeah, so we usually, and like just for ease, we have put it's our last box in the front. So like whatever the offer is, so people it's consistent in there,
So
so
good.
then people can see it all the time. Um, and I would say, like in your emails, make sure like you have several donation buttons. Have one that says donate monthly, have it front and forward, because then when people is ready, they will convert into it. And as you said, like the more you tell them, we have it on the PS um of or acknowledgments as well. So like just add it everywhere where you can.
Okay, Sophia, this has been so good. We had true podcast recording stories. We did have a momentary internet hiccup here, but I loved what you said. In terms of just putting that ask everywhere when it comes to sustainable giving. Like that is so simple, but again, I think it's about people understanding that the in depth, the best way to make a difference, the best way to make an impact is to, in this case, give on a recurring basis. And so I think that's so powerful. So as we wrap up, I just wanted you to reflect on something for me. What gives you hope about the future of sustainable giving?
I hope it becomes more than our 50% of revenue, for every organization.
It said like a good goal oriented person. I love that.
Yeah, I can only hope that, because my heart is torn, when I hear about organizations that have to stop doing what they are doing because of the shifts of the economy or changes in grants, you know, anything that can happen. Sustainable giving can really give that stability to an organization if you give it the importance, from the beginning, and treat it as the program that it's gonna be your pillar, in there. So I hope more people in the C-suite, of any nonprofit understands that, and that the people that it's working with, the donors, do not get tired of repeating that message. I always tell
Mm-hmm.
people, like, think of the C-suite people as another sustainer that you want, so you have to convert them into this idea
I love
that
that.
this is the
Convert
best
your
way of doing
C-suite to sustainers.
yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, Sophia, this has been so good. And I just am so encouraged by our conversation. You and I hinted at it earlier, but we were speaking on a panel at the Bridge Conference in DC a couple of months ago. And literally, I've never been in a panel that room was so full, and they turned away as many people as were in the room. I just took that as a really heartening, encouraging sign for just charity leaders understand that this is an opportunity. This is not something where 10 years ago we would have had to really push hard. And so I think it's an opportunity in front of us. And just thank you for investing yourself, your talents, your gifts. I think back to, little Sophia and your dad working in the nonprofit, background, and just we all have this story that has led us to where we're at today. And I'm just grateful for yours and your investment in this sector.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think, sustainable giving definitely gives me, a lot of internal joy. I would say a lot of purpose as a fundraiser. I do think, I do appreciate these donors. I know sometimes people is looking at the big bucks, but our sustainers to me are one of our most valuable donors, and we'll continue advocating for them. So thank you so much for this time. Also, I appreciate that we got to see the lens of the Hispanic donor as well, because I do think they are an important audience for these sustainer groups. So I wish, many more people can come to your podcast and continue, growing this platform of knowledge for nonprofits so they can understand sustainer giving and put in practice the learnings that they get off of these talkings.
Well said. Well said. Well, you actually said it best, and I'm going to end us with this. It's not my problem. It's our problem. We are a community of people, not just supporting Operation Smile, but supporting inspiring generosity. And so I think that's a good way to end it. And it's been great to have you on the show, Sofia.
Yeah, thank you, Dave. So I hope I see you again, maybe at another conference, or if you decide to come and visit us at Virginia Beach, please let me know.
I will be there. I've got multiple reasons. Love it.
Yes.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sustainable Giving Podcast. I hope you found the information helpful and that you're able to walk away with some powerful tools that you can use to start building a steady stream of recurring revenue for your organization. For more information about the topic and to take the Sustainable Giving self-assessment, visit us online at sustainablegiving.org. While you're there, you can pick up your copy of The Rise of Sustainable Giving, your guide to growing recurring giving. And hey, would you do me a favor? If a person comes to mind that you think would benefit from this episode, would you mind sharing this episode with them? Just that little act could be the difference that they need to start growing sustainable giving for their own organization. And there's one other thing that you can do that would be a huge blessing to me. I've timed it, and it takes just 16 seconds. Would you consider rating the show? Just head to the show page on the app of your choice, and if you've enjoyed this show, hit the 5-star review. Bonus, if you want to leave a comment, I would love to hear what you think. Special thanks to the entire team at Imago Productions for bringing this show to life. Abigail, Christine, Grace, Kirsten, and Tom, this would not be possible without you. Until next time, thank you for joining us, and keep inspiring generosity.